video we're taking a look at one of the OGs, one of the legends of the Eurorack world, Make Noise Maths. And the observant amongst you may have noticed that maths features in pretty much every one of my videos. But I do occasionally get a comment saying something like, why do you always have such a big module taking up space in such a small rack? And I guess the reason is that I've just kind of come to depend on maths. It's such a useful module to have, so I thought I would make a video going over my top 5 or so ways that I like to use it. And I'm going to try and patch each patch up from scratch. So yeah, if that sounds good, please stick around. Also, please do subscribe if you've not already. And yeah, let's get into the video. Okay, so I'm going to do a very brief overview of maths as there's so many great videos out there already. Maths is essentially a 4-channel utility, I guess. Channels 2 and 3 are very straightforward. There are 2 inputs, 2 attenuators and 2 outputs. We also have a sum output, so we can use maths as a mixer. Channels 1 and 4 are more complex. They are more like cycling envelopes. So let's take a look at channel 4 here, which is modulating my filter cutoff. And we can trigger this externally by using the trigger input. Let's open it up a bit. Or we can have it cycle. And then we can adjust the rise and the fall. It does go into the audio range. We can also modulate the rise and fall, which can be really interesting. Let's take channel 1 of maths, get it cycling and patch that into the fall. Can be a cool way to generate rhythms. We can also modulate both the rise and fall simultaneously by using the both input. And we can also modulate the cycle. Instead of having it permanently cycling, we can turn it on and off. What else do we have? There are some alternative outputs here, an OR and an INV, which I'm not so familiar with. Maybe I'll dive into a bit more later. And there is also, instead of a trigger input, we've got just like an input, which allows us to process the information through maths. So this kind of combination of inputs, outputs, and channels makes it like a very complex module and capable of a whole load of different things. So let's start by exploring some of those next. So I'm going to start with a nice easy one, and probably the most common way in which maths is used, which is as an envelope. And it may surprise you to learn that I've never actually owned a dedicated ADSR in all of my years of Eurorack. And that's because I really like the character of maths, especially when used as a filter envelope, which I'm going to do here. So my setup is Platts is my sound source. It's going into the Instro Carn VCA, over to the Dual Dagger stereo filter, then into Databender, Beads, the MFX, the effects aid, and then out to my mixing desk. Platts is sounding like this today. Nice and beefy. I've got a sequence I'm going to run on the key step, and the gate is going into the trigger input on channel 4 of maths. So let's patch the output of channel 4 into the filter cutoff. And this is kind of what I mean about the character of maths as an envelope. It's so tight and snappy that it almost gives a kind of low pass gate vibe, which I'm very much into. Let's bring some drums. And as we move from exponential to logarithmic, more of the filter is going to come through. The rise acts as the attack. So we can get that nice rounded vintage sound. And something that I like to do to sort of increase the dynamics of a patch like this is take a sample and hold and patch it into the fall or the release. Like start up palms. And for even more extreme dynamics, we could take a sample and hold and patch it into the both input. And the final thing I'd like to demonstrate here, which is a nice little touch, is the fact that we can then cycle this envelope and get up into the audio range. Provides some really crazy sort of experimental sounds. So it is a lot of fun to just experiment with all the different ways that we can use maths as an envelope. And it sounds great. Next, I want to take a look at using channel 1 of maths here to process CV information, specifically pitch in this example. So I've got the pitch from the key step going into the volt per octave input in plats, but let's patch it into the input of channel 1 of maths. We can now use the rise and fall to shape that pitch information. I find that this combination of having one channel modulating the filter and the other one processing the pitch information to be such a powerful performance tool. Between these two sides of maths, there's so much scope for evolving your sequences. So let's take a look at some of the weirder things that maths can do. And because it goes up into the audio range, it can actually self-oscillate, and you can use it as an oscillator over about an octave or so. But what I prefer to do is use it to make big, juicy kick drums. So to do this, I have a gate coming out of Palms here, going into the trigger of channel 1, and this is going to kind of act like the clock for the drums, as well as the shaper for the kick drum. And to actually make this happen, I'm going to take the unity out here from channel 4. This is where the audio is going to come from, so I'm patching it into my VCA. Then I'm going to take the sum out, which is a mix of all 4 channels, and patch that into the both input. And now when we cycle channel 4, it's going to self-oscillate and be triggered by channel 1. So let's make that happen. We get this massive sounding, really bassy kick, and channel 1 is going to be our shaper here, so we can get some nice toms happening. We can also use the attenuator to soften the amount of modulation. But this is a really fat and interesting sort of foundation to a track. If I wanted to build on this, then I've got plats here in one of the drum modes. I think it's a snare mode. It's being triggered by Palms to give us a hi-hat. And then we may as well bring in the data bender on a patch like this. And then finally I've got the key step here controlling the KO2, so let's add some chords. Interesting and a lot of fun. So this patch is a little bit too complex to patch up from scratch. It's basically a sidechain compression, and it's not something I'd actually done before with maths, but it was something I knew that maths could probably do, just because all the ingredients are there to do something like this. I just had to spend a little bit of time figuring it out. So I'll break this one down. Channel 1 of maths is actually creating the kick. And what's happening here is I've got channel 1 being triggered by PAMS, and it is modulating the UVCF filter from IntelliGel. I have the resonance all the way up so that it's self-oscillating, and yeah, it's creating this quite tasty techno sounding kick drum. We can use the rise and fall here to mess about. But yeah, that's creating the kick drum, and I'm using a multiple here to send that out to my mixing desk, but also over to channel 4 of maths, so it's triggering channel 4, and I'm using the output of maths to modulate the VCA. So Platts is going into the VCA, being modulated by channel 4 of maths, which is kind of being triggered by this kick drum. And I'm using the rise here, or the attack, to kind of make it be on the offbeat, if that makes sense. One final thing to mention, I've actually got Platts going over to the effects aid to be drenched in reverb, and then come back to the VCA before the sidechain happens, and that's just to get this kind of overlapping sound. The reverb trails are overlapping as I move between notes, but both the oscillator and the reverb are being sidechained, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's a nice effect. So to finish off, I thought I would just do a compilation of crazy noises. I'm going to get both channels cycling. I've got the sum output, so a mixture of all 4 channels going into my VCA. And yeah, I'm just going to explore the various parameters and start modulating and see what happens. Disclosure here, this is not going to be a musical section. So yeah, this is going to be noisy. Let's see what happens. That was a good bit. So yeah, not the most musical example I've ever done, but these sort of sounds are so sampleable, for want of a better word. And these types of explorations are kind of what modular is all about. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed my breakdown of maths. If you have, please do leave a like and a comment. If you would like to help support the channel, then I do have a Patreon where I upload extra videos and sample packs and preset packs. You can sign up to that for as little as £3 and it really does help me out. I also have a cassette for sale. You can pick that up on my Bandcamp, link down below, and there are some affiliate links there as well. As always, thank you for watching and I'll catch you all again soon.